This is Kiyra Lynn with the Morning Show After Show, and today I'm so excited because I'm joined by Nelson Coates, who is the production designer for the Morning Show. Nelson, it is so great to meet you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. It's great to be with you.
Oh, I am a big fan of your work. I know that you've worked with John Chu on Crazy Rich Asians and In the Heights, two of my favorite movies, but even more so, you're also the production designer for the Morning Show. Can you tell us what exactly a production designer does for those of our viewers who may not be familiar with what you do?
You bet. I'm one of the first people hired, and I'm in charge of the concept and execution of the sets, props, costumes, hair, makeup, special effects, stunt rigs, basically all the visual narrative design aspects of a show. And in this case, the challenge we had with the Morning Show was we'd started filming pre-pandemic, and then we had to shut down, and then we came back, and the whole story had changed, and it had changed to be written for locations all over the world. And so I had to figure out then how to do all of the world in Los Angeles. So that's just a little something that a production designer does.
Just a small little thing. Well, I would love to get into this because I understand that you majored in journalism and communications with a minor in biology. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was pre-med for a while, and then at the last minute I went, you know what? I don't think I'm going to be a doctor, even though I had the grades, but I just didn't have the interest.
So then how did you fall into this amazing world of production design?
Well, I had been acting professionally since I was 6. I did shows, equity shows early on, and then, off-Broadway, national tours, all sorts of stuff. I've been singing, dancing, and acting since 6. So storytelling has been a part of my fiber, and it literally, is an extension when you're getting to do all the parts, because you're designing everybody's space and their backstories and their wants and likes and dislikes, and you're getting to flesh out what basically in a script is just an outline and making it come to life.
Oh, I love production design because it's almost like encompasses all of the creativity. You're designing what we see in the back, you're understanding what we also see on the actors, and then you're also working with the director in visually what they're trying to compose and what everybody's going to see. I understand, like, as you said, that you guys were just at the start of season 2, having to shut down due to COVID. I'd love for you to kind of touch base on how the Morning Show set changed from season 1 to what we see is the elevation in season 2, and how did it change from the shutdown from the beginning of COVID to what we actually see?
Well, when my longtime friend Mimi Leader came on board as an executive producer director on season 1, we had just finished the Ruth Bader Ginsburg movie On the Basis of Sex, which I'm so proud of. And I've been working with Mimi, for about 18 years. And when they brought her on, they had already fleshed out their entire crew. And so she wasn't able to bring me on to season 1. So I went off with John Chu and did Home Before Dark for Apple, and then In the Heights in New York. And when I came back from In the Heights, Mimi said, would you be interested? And I said, well, I have a lot of ideas. And she goes, we want them. And so one of the things that I wanted to do was add a complexity to the environments of the show within a show, and also give it a lot of flexibility. So I redesigned the standing show within a show set so that there are multiple levels and lots of lighting and graphics and things on the floors, added a conference room so that you could have connectivity with what's going on in front of and behind the cameras, redid the hallways and dressing rooms, and literally the control rooms, changed the whole color palette to pull things down, did a lot of things with geography. One of the things we needed was a new space to have accidental interaction with characters. And I said, well, almost everything I know in New York have, if your show has been around for like 18 years, you'd have a huge craft service kitchen where people are in and out. And so we busted out a section of the hallways and created that. And we'd actually started filming for about 3.5 weeks when COVID shut us down. We were the first show to shut down, and we didn't know what was going to happen. we already had started Corey's hotel room and renovations on Alex's and Bradley's apartment and hotel rooms. And so we shut down. We came back after they had rewritten, with a story based in the news. You have to reflect a little bit about what's going on in the world. And so we did, a bit of the COVID storyline. So we used only about a day and a half of what we shot before COVID, which is literally in season 1, right before or right after what happened in season 1 to start season 2. And then we jumped forward 7 months. And you start seeing the havoc and the craziness that that announcement and on air at the end of season 1 did to the new season. But with the rewrite, that meant that we needed to go lots of places in the world. So in season 2, I had to do Wuhan, hotel room, train stations, even a train, a Beijing hotel room. We did Las Vegas, New Orleans, we did Des Moines, we did Green Bay, and of course, New York and Las Vegas. And we really expanded the New York world because I really wanted to see all aspects of New York architecture and different neighborhoods so they really could pinpoint where we were. So you'll see people in restaurants looking out and seeing the world, but it looks like New York. There's all sorts of the kiosks and things you find in New York. There's different types of subway entrances. We just fleshed out the world and tried to make it big and expansive so that when you're looking in an office, you're seeing huge views. But the biggest thing that we did was no one wanted to go to a location during COVID. They wanted to be safe and secure. So we built in 8.5 weeks from my first pencil hitting the paper till we were filming, a 12,000 square foot office complex with elevators, Corey's office, Alex's office, a big bullpen with Stella's office and all the working areas. And then there are walls on all of this that flip and go up into the air and switch with new walls and colorways and furniture. So that 12,000 square feet becomes 24,000 square feet of working space. So when you see those people going down those halls and in those offices and things and seeing these huge vistas, we're actually on stage 26 at Sony.
Oh my gosh. So that's all done in Los Angeles.
Yes, every bit of it.
And you did that in 8 weeks. That is mind-blowing.
It was crazy.
Well, I was going to ask you because, we did interview Deshaun a couple of weeks ago, and he did mention that you recreated Wuhan here in Los Angeles. Can you talk to me about what that process was like and, what the resources were that you guys used to recreate that here in Los Angeles, where we're from?
Obviously, I needed to have a translator so that we could make sure that all our signage and everything was correct. We also were doing Lake Como and an Italian villa and all this. And so I had both a Chinese translator for the Mandarin work, and we had an Italian translator for that, for the signage and things. But we knew we were going to need a train station, and there are 3 major train stations in Wuhan. It's a city of about 10 million people, and one of them looks very British colonial, another one looks like a big glass box, and another one has 3 odd kind of architectural humps to it. And immediately I thought of the Metrolink train station in Anaheim that has a huge hump to it. And it's like, well, if I bring in all the elements from Wuhan to this, the signage, the particular Chinese New Year decor that was that year, as well as just all of the station elements like the counters and the how you shrink wrap your luggage and all of those elements, that if they would say yes and give us one of their trains, then potentially we could do this. So Metrolink said yes. We got a train. We dressed the entire inside, but the outside couldn't travel dressed. So everything was timed. So when the train came in, we had a whole team of people doing graphics on the whole outside to change it to the Beijing, Wuhan, Guangzhou railways. And then, the huge New Year's cake, all of the signage, it was crazy. It was super fun. The whole platform with the kiosks and all the newspapers and hawkers, it was pretty exciting.
Oh my God, and it looks, I've traveled to Asia. It looks very, very authentic. I would love to hear about you recreating Lake Como in Los Angeles, because I understand that Mimi is friends with George Clooney. So she
Oh yeah.
has firsthand experience of
Oh
what
yes.
Italy is like. Talk to me
I
about
did. That was, that's a little nerve-wracking when okay, I've really got to get inside. It can't just be Lake Como light. It's got to really look like the details. But in this case, I've traveled pretty much all over Italy, and so I was pulling elements from stores and various ideas. But I pitched Mimi. There are two streets in Los Angeles that have cobblestone, and Piazza Cavour in Lake Como has cobblestone sections on it, and there's some Italianate buildings on those cobblestones in LA. And so I pitched if we did certain green screen areas where we did set extension, and I put facades on the brick buildings because there's not much brick anywhere in Como. It's all either stonework or stucco. And so we created the fronts of the restaurants and redid and created the restaurants and the whole plaza, vendor carts, and then the buildings that you see far in the distance that we weren't going to go into. We actually created murals that had forced perspective in them and printed huge photographs on those windows. So behind Steve Carell, as he's walking across the plaza, you see things in the distance that look like they're full-fleshed, and we just have some awnings and things in front and photographs in the windows. It was pretty crazy. And everyone was like, oh my gosh, we're here, we're here.
Well, I love my personal favorite sets are Alex's New York City penthouse apartment, and also Bradley's hotel room, which is very like burgundies and greens. I would love to know, what is your favorite productions design that you've done for the show personally?
Well, I'm really a big fan of Billy Crudup, Corey's hotel suite. With the first season being so much about harassment and the sexual politics, etc., I really wanted to have subtle subtext of all of that in the show. And since he's kind of trying to steer this ship, ironically, you see in the columns to his dining room are Lalique type sconces that are built into the walls with a naked male figure and a female figure. And then over his bed is an American Martin painting of a reclining nude. And there's various little elements. So you see how pervasive this imagery is, and how then Corey is trying to negotiate through a situation that is pretty horrific. And yet he's confronted with these elements even in his own habitat. So trying to get New York in every square inch, there's photographs throughout his entire hotel suite that are photos I've taken in New York, art photos and things. There's little insider stuff throughout the whole suite. And, I'm super excited about that. But also I did a lot of original art for this season. You'll see in Alex's new ensuite bathroom that's totally redone. We don't see a lot of her daughter this season. So I wanted to make sure everyone knew she has a daughter. So
Charcoal painting.
And so we did this charcoal painting that
Yes.
I took photographs, put things together, and a Laguna Beach artist, Ryan Hembrick, did this beautiful piece for me. And it's kind of an ironic piece because it's like the daughter's portrait with her mom, but her mom can't get out of the portrait. She's there and the daughter's still in the shadow. So it kind of has that personal interaction and relationship depicted in a piece of art.
Nelson, the attention to detail that you have, how do you possibly keep it all organized? Because, there's just so much that goes into it. That must be a task within itself.
It's pretty crazy. I make notes, copious notes, and I'm constantly revisiting the script and then revisiting the potential. And even if we don't get to 100% of where I was aiming, if we can get to 90%, it's going to be chock full of character and chock full of backstory and detail. So you really get a sense of who these people are and what their politics and what their relationships are and their wants and their likes.
Oh, I'm almost out of time, but before I let you go, I would love to know if there's somebody out there currently watching that wants to get into production design. If you had any advice for them, where should they start? What should they do?
Well, of course, there are universities that have tracks in their film department for production design, and that's one way. Like, there's the American Film Institute, there's Chapman, there, UCLA, USC. There's a lot of colleges throughout the United States that do teach this. But really, what you need to be is a lover of art, history, architecture, character, and storytelling. How do you tell stories visually? And you can do that on a small scale in your local high school and your local college, or you can actually then start looking up people that you admire and say, hey, I'm interested in meeting you. There are books about this, but people are really interested in mentoring, and I love to do that. I like to give people the shot to get them excited. I always have production assistants and interns on shows that have never done it before, so they can see what is involved, because it's pretty complex. You have become an expert in whatever story that you're actually portraying.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, Nelson, it's been such a joy. Again, like I said, I am such a big fan of your work, and I just visually just remembering Crazy Rich Asians and In the Heights. I mean, I was so excited to speak with you today. So thank you so much for taking the time.
It's so nice to meet you, and thank you for letting me share a little bit about the morning show.